you Bake Off fans, it's Jack here at bakewithjack.co.uk bringing you my weekly thoughts on the Great British Bake Off, and this week is a very special week because I've got to start with an apology. I'm sorry. Last week got a little bit crackers and I ran out of time. I've been squeezing this video in while my son has been sleeping, but it didn't quite happen that way this week, so I missed the mark. So I'm bringing you a double whammy, a back-to-back episode 7 and episode 8 episode, because I've done you all an injustice and there's a few bakers on the Bake Off that I did a massive injustice to last week. So here goes. For episode number 7, it's another first for the Bake Off. It's Italian week, the first ever Italian week. And if you don't want to hear about episode 7, you just want to skip on to episode number 8, you can skip to this point in the video here. Italian week was a fun one, and we started off with those cannolis which are ever so nice, and Sophie from Surrey went out on a limb and she filled hers with mascarpone, and everyone was like, oh, mascarpone, are you sure? And she was like, oh yeah. And then she pulled it off and everyone loved them. The first 3 absolutely loved them. Another one to mention is Stephen. They loved his as well. There's a couple of dodgy ones, there's a couple of runny ones going on, a couple that spilled out at the ends, but Stephen did really well and Sophie did really well too. Moving on to the second round, it was pizza. And we all know what I think about bread making on the Bake Off, right? Am I right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and have a look at Bread Week. I think it was number 3. But bread needs time. Okay? Yes, it is possible to make a nice pizza in that time, but the best pizza ever is just a straight white dough. Minimum yeast, ball it all up, stick it in the fridge until tomorrow, and that's what makes it so good. That's what makes it delicious. That's what makes it crisp underneath, nice puffy crust, and those little black bubbles that you see in an artisan cookbook as well. That's where you get all that stuff from. It's just from time. But you can make a nice pizza in a short amount of time like they did, and a lot of them did. A few of them were wobblers, a few of them were very, very floppy in the middle, and I suppose that's to be expected as well. And a couple of them got stuck onto that peel. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's like a little peel thing, looks like a shovel, yeah? And you make your pizza, pop it onto the peel, and then slide it into the oven on a hot tray or a hot baking stone. That's why you get that crisp underneath. Few people got stuck to the peels and shimmied them in a big corrugated mess into the oven. It was a complete disaster. One of those people, I think, was Kate the blacksmith, which was a shame. But tip, if you're making pizzas at home in that style, if you got your friends around, we do this sometimes, we have people over and they're all making their own pizzas and popping them in the oven, and sometimes they're sat on the side for a bit before they go in the oven. The longer they're sat on the side for, the more stickier they become underneath, and the best way to combat that is just to have a little square of parchment paper. Top them all off on top of a square of parchment paper. You can then pick up the pizza by the parchment paper and slide it onto the peel. And then when you slide it into the oven, slide it all into the oven in one go, parchment and all, because the parchment will stop sticking from the peel, it will stop it sticking to the stone or the tray in the oven, and everything will be wonderful. And sometimes about halfway through baking, you can slide that piece of paper out if you want to. If not, leave it in there till the end. Top tip, yeah. So here come the spoilers for the technical round, the pizza round. In last place, coming up the rear, was Kate. What does that say? Finger in the fan. Oh, Kate put her finger in the fan in the oven. Did you see it? Oh my goodness. Kate, this is a new one for the Bake Off. Kate popped her finger into the fan of the oven by accident because she was rearranging her pizza dough, I'd imagine, and just sliced the top off. That's what happens in my head anyway, but she probably just cut herself a little bit. Wow, what a shame. Last plate for Kate. I feel like that put her off a game after her cut her finger. She lost focus and it all went wrong. So last place for Kate. Never mind. Third place, Sophie from Surrey, who did the epic cannolis in round 1. Second place, Liam, shining bright again, Liam. And Stephen, first place. Nice work. Another sticky pizza for Jan as well. Jan and Kate, the sticky pizzas. Oh, what a shame. But it's an easy mistake to make. Moving on swiftly to the showstopper. Moving on swiftly to the showstopper. This was something we've never seen before. Sfogliatelli, and these are like those little lobster tails, right? A lot of work involved in these. These look so tricky, and it's a little bit of a detour from the showstoppers that we are familiar with, the big, massive, majestic cakes and whatnot, sculptures and things. And the reason was that Paul told us was because it's so labour intensive, and it really is. These look like tricky little fellas to pull off, I tell you what. Super thin, super fine pastry laid with butter, I think, or some of them did lard, I think, as well. Really, really thin, rolled up into a sausage, sliced, a little bit like what we saw with those Portuguese custard tarts, and then carefully from a disc, from a ring, peeled sort of upwards, like coaxed upwards like a cone from the middle. Oh my goodness. And then filled and baked, and this one was so tricky, and to be fair, a couple of them were quite dodgy looking. Jan's one was dodgy looking, I remember. I think Kate's was a little bit ropey, and Sophie's as well, but even the ropey ones, when we looked at them, looked really good. Seriously, the amount of work that went into those is unbelievable, and even the dodgy ones I looked at and thought, actually, they're passable. They did well. There's one thing I'd like to mention at this point, is that Liam always puts on a nice display. These little biscuit pastry things are meant to look like lobster tails, right? And he did this, got this fake ice polystyrene box and made it look like he was in a fishmonger's. He always pulls out the stops in terms of presentation, and I really like that about Liam. Stacey tried something new by popping choux pastry inside of her pastry, so then it puffed up, and then she would fill it with a filling, which was creme patissiere, which was really runny, and that was a bit of a disaster. It was a shame. But hey, let's move on to the big massive spoilers, okay? The big massive ones, and this is where I redeem myself. If you don't want to see the spoilers, please switch off now. But to be fair, it's been a week and a half since it was on. Stephen was Star Baker. Stephen, Mr. Style over substance I was talking about last week, has pulled it back. He's pulled it back in, and Stephen did really, really well, working a lot of instinct this time round. The sfogliatelli biscuits, pastries, were really, really tricky and really refined thing to do, and I feel like that's his bag. So that's why he did well on that one. But he used a lot of instinct in terms of pizza, stuff like that, which is great. Nice work, Stephen, bringing it back. And who went? This was a big shame, and now we are way deep now. We are way deep into the competition, and the competition is way deep into our hearts. So it's super sad to say goodbye to Scientist Jan. Bye-bye, Jan. We've all really enjoyed watching you do what you do. It was awesome. Everyone's a little bit unique now, a little bit a unique part of this, and Jan was totally unique in the way she approached what was going on. There's a lot to learn in Jan's techniques, which is really awesome. So I will miss you personally, Jan. It's a shame to say bye-bye to you at this stage in the competition. Let's move on to episode number 8, which was last night, which I really enjoyed, the Forgotten Bakes. I believe that's another new one, but I believe we've already seen the clanger in the past on the Great British Bake Off. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I've already seen the clanger on Great British Bake Off, unless it was on Blue Peter or something like that. I've definitely seen it or heard of it, and if you haven't heard of it, it is essentially a sausage roll looking pastry with a similar suet pastry to a Cornish pasty, which is 2/3 savoury filling with a little wall in the middle, and 1/3 sweetie filling for pudding. So I'm going to go down my list today, because there's 5 people left in the competition. It's getting tight now. Let's go down every single person. Ready? Stephen. He did a Mediterranean one with a baklava at one end, and it was massive. Like literally, it was big. It was so big. And you know what I like about Stephen in this week is that this week he's substance over style, where he's normally style over substance. So this week his clangers looked horrendous, but they were delicious. And I loved seeing that happen. Second up, Liam. Liam done pizza inspired with a dipping sauce, and Paul couldn't get his head around the fact that there's a dipping sauce on a pizza, and maybe he's never ordered from Domino's, because isn't there like a little pot of sauce in the lid. Anyway, I get it. Liam done the pizza one and he did a nice display as well, the same as the last couple of weeks in a row, which was awesome. Stacey got beautiful flavours, good texture comments, and she got a big, massive handshake from Mr. Hollywood. Yes, Stacey! Sophie did char siu something, I don't know what that is. Pecan praline in the other end, nice and tidy. She put a lot of work into that presentation, did a few scores. Unfortunately, the scores opened up and broke open, revealing the inside, which is not the ideal thing to happen. And the pastry was a little too thick and underbaked again, which is the same as the other week. And Kate, the blacksmith, Mexican bean and rice pudding. She got good compliments on a rice pudding. And special commendation goes out to Kate, the blacksmith, for providing us with a moment. The whole drop of the clanger moment. She literally dropped a clanger. Unfortunately for us, fortunately for her, it didn't smash all over the ground, but it was a good moment nonetheless. Thanks, Kate, for entertaining us in that way. Round number 2, the technical, and nobody had ever heard of a rum nicky, and not even I sitting in front of the TV had ever heard of a rum nicky, and it looked like a sort of great big mince pie, to be fair, with a lot of booze and butter in it, which is the best way to go, isn't it, in a mince pie? So the rum nicky looked like a great big open top mince pie, and there was a little bit of conversation about the lattice work. The lattice needs to be open so the alcohol evaporates. If it's all closed up, it won't happen, it will go soggy, which was quite interesting. I never thought of it that way around. That's really, really cool. So let's go all the way through from 5th place. Liam made a raw pie, a properly raw pie. Not a raw pie like a healthy raw pie made out of dates and chia seeds. Like a raw pie, like he made the pie, but it wasn't cooked, unfortunately. Liam, 5th place. 4th place, Sophie. 3rd place, Stacey. 2nd place, Kate. And 1st place, Stephen, bringing it back once again. It was a little bit ropey on the top, and I love it when Stephen makes something a little bit ropey on the top because the flavour was spot on and everything else was spot on. Nice work. The 3rd and final round, the showstopper round, was all about the Savoy cake. And if you don't know what a Savoy cake is, it's basically a cake made out of cabbage, right? Only joking. It's a Victorian cake with a nice crust of sugar on the outside, and it's baked in a wonderful bundt cake mould to make it look absolutely fabulous. Minimalist design on the outside, which I thought was quite interesting. But hey, let's go through everybody. What the hey, it's only 5 people. Let's go through it. Stephen made a small and elegant cake with lots of lovely fondant flowers on top that took a long time. But Paul was a little bit upset at the size of the thing. Liam done a spun sugar one, and the same thing happened as we saw in the spun sugar caramel cake round, is that it was done a little bit early and it was sitting around and everything just absolutely melted and completely disappears. That's what happens. It's such a delicate thing and it just sucks all that moisture out of the air and turns into puddles. So that's what happened with Liam, and that was a real shame. He didn't have a very good week. Stacey made a very overcomplicated thing, and it was a little bit reminiscent of the days of Candice last year, because she did a lot of things with a lot of different elements in the showstoppers, and I feel like she never really quite pulled some of them off to the full extent. But highly commended because she did so much stuff. And Stacey provided us with a new bake-off moment as well. It will go down in history. Stacey pulled the door off the oven. Yes! She just pulled that little sneaky rolly drawer out of the oven and it fell off, and she pushed it onto the front and held it on for the duration of the cooking. I thought that was a bit unfair. I thought people were going to abseil from the ceiling like Batman and come and fix it, all the technicians in the tent, but that didn't happen. That was a real shame. But hey, she got away with it, and the other bits and bobs, she made macaroons and stuff like that, macarons if you like, and meringues. She got away with baking in other people's ovens, but still didn't quite make the cut at the end. But there was a lot of effort going into that, which was good. Sophie made a stunner, and everyone was so impressed. Everyone was really impressed, and Paul absolutely loved it. And Cake made some cake. Cake made a cake that was a little bit less stunning. She didn't really use one of the proper moulds. She built cakes on top of cakes, which was fine, but the cakes came out well, I think, in the end anyway. So are you ready for the big massive spoilers on week 8? This is the moment where I tell you where the Star Baker is and who went home, and here he goes. Star Baker was between two people, let's face it, and you know who took it? Stacey took it. I'm delighted for you, Stacey. You're working very hard in that tent despite everything going on around you, major and minor disasters, the paper in the pie and the door falling off. But you did really well this week. Well done, Stacey. I'm well chuffed for you that happened, Star Baker. And who went home? The whole world was devastated. I was tweeting at the time and Twitter went off, properly off. Who went home? Liam went home, and that was a surprise to us all. Liam put so much effort into it. He put so much love into what he was doing, and he was really enjoying the process. We were starting to see him a couple of weeks ago really coming out of his shell and showing us some wicked bakes and how much he has got skills. But it just goes to show what we all know, is that one bad week on the bake-off and you could be out that door. Real shame for Liam. He did have a shocking week and is gone, but hey, he's a youngster. Maybe he's just not quite ready yet. But there you go. So the 4 people in the semi-final next week is Stephen, Stacey, Sophie from Surrey, and Kate the blacksmith. I look forward to seeing what's going on. I can't remember what week it was. I can't even barely remember all this. I can't remember what week it is next week. If you know, please do let me know. And as always, if you're new here, my name is Jack and I'm at bakewithjack.co.uk, where we make a lot of bread together. I teach people how to make bread. There's loads of recipes and videos and resources on my website if you want to go and have a look. If that's your bag, go and have a look. That would be awesome. And in the next few weeks, at the end of the bake-off, I'm going to be bringing back the bi-weekly bread making tip on a Thursday, which I'm really excited about because I've missed it really bad. And I know a lot of you have missed it too, which is awesome. Well, it's not awesome, but you know, it's nice for me to know. But it's not awesome for you. But it's coming back, which is exciting. So I will see you next week for episode number 9. We're coming close to the end. I'm getting nervous. I'm really looking forward to it. See you soon.